prodigy to contender. These are both aggressive and fearless chess players. We show why you should be excited to see them stir some stuff up here in the candidates tournament in 2024. Vidit pushes pawns with abandon. He doesn't care. He ignores all opening principles. He ignores structural principles. He makes all this stuff happen. Pragg doesn't care who you are. If you're Hikaru, Magnus, he goes into these crazy theoretical opening lines regardless of opponent, and he tests you. He's only 18 years old right now. When Pragg became a grandmaster at the age of 12, the youngest to ever do that, Vidit had the clear upper hand. Fast forward to today, those dynamics have shifted just a bit. We unravel the story of how these two chess titans have grown into worthy adversaries. As we walk through each game, guess the time control. Rapid, Blitz, Classical. We go through all three. There's 4 games total. Let me know how many you get in the comments below. In this game, we have an Italian, another theoretical line. This position right here, I always wonder, okay, whose bishop should take whose bishop? Should you capture this to damage black's pawn structure? A lot of times I don't like doing it because of it creates some center pawns for black. He can have a lot of initiative here. Out of the opening, you can see that Pragg's bishop is blocked in here. Vidit's minor pieces are all developed and his rooks are connected. He's just one step ahead right now. And in addition to that, this weak d3 pawn is going to be an issue. So Pragg goes about, solves that. He removes that dark square bishop. He brings his own bishop here to be able to push d4. He does that right here. And now Vidit has his rooks lined up here on the d file. Again, he's one step ahead. He's just a little bit better placed. And Pragg retreats back, and he has nowhere for this bishop to go forward. All of these squares are taken. This bishop's going to become a problem here in the future. For some reason, as Vidit's throwing all his pawns forward, he moves this forward in 2 moves instead of 1 move. Super GMs, super weird, super interesting. Then he moves his knight backwards. Why does he do that? So he can move it forward. He can play c5. That further restricts this b4 square, making this bishop even less potent and more out of the game. And then look at these beautiful knights. They're covering all of these squares, and they just look absolutely stunning. And now he moves his king forward. It's his only piece that's not already ideally placed. Moves further forward. This rook move right here further weakens that bishop. Now he can't even play b4 at all because of the weakness on the c3 square. He has an exchange, and Pragg loses sight of the prize. He doesn't realize how weak his king is, but Vidit does. He's got this move, this is checkmate. That's exactly what he goes for. Pragg has to go try to defend it, and he's bringing his king forward, and we go into this absolutely winning, demoralizing endgame because his bishop has never been able to get out, and when it finally does, it's too late because this pawn's gonna make a queen, and Vidit wins this one. Let's just go back here 1 second, just see what this guy was able to do in this game. It's totally insane. Right here, he moves backwards. Then he gets both of his knights into this totally sweet position. Then he charges his king forward. Then he creates this cool mate threat and simplifies into this totally winning game. And the craziest thing about it, what is the time format? Kind of leading into it a little bit. This is a Blitz game. This is totally insane as a Blitz game to play at such a high level. This game happened in 2023. This just happened. Oh yeah. This next game, we have another theoretical line. We're gonna have lots of theoretical lines, and Pragg here is black. He's not afraid to enter into this crazy territory, and Vidit here damages his pawn structure voluntarily. He does that all the time. You're gonna see it a lot. He doesn't care. And right now, it looks like Vidit with white just has a little bit easier development. You could see this cluster of pieces for Pragg back in the corner. Vidit's got a little bit more space with his pawns further advanced. So Pragg has some stuff to solve here. What Vidit decides to do with this pressure coming along to h2, he decides to give up this bishop and damage his pawns yet again. and Pragg's queen infiltrates, and right now Vidit kicks the queen out, but I mean, what is this rook really doing here on the d file? You can't really push up to d5 because it'll weaken this c5 square. The knight will plant itself right there. So rook on d1 right now, it's really just not doing too much. He improves his king, and this move here by Pragg is really cool. He's forcing essentially this d5 push. So d5, best move, captures. He's lining up here with this recaptures. He forces this forward with a tempo, and he creates this permanent weakness on d5, which he's going to immediately go after. Pragg is giving up this b6 pawn and trading it for the d5 pawn, but really it's just tactically defended, and Vidit decides he needs to go for it. He needs to give up some material here in order to solve some problems, because if he doesn't act right now, let's just say he lets the game continue, this queenside pawn majority over on the A, B, and C file, paired with this very weak pawn on d5 and this weak pawn on c3, Pragg will be able to slowly build up the advantage, push his pawns over here, and probably be able to win this game. He also has a safer king with this pawn structure here on the right side. So he decides he needs to give up some material, and we continue forward. And right now, Vidit is technically up a pawn. Pragg is going to be able to retake this pawn here really quickly. We can see he regains that material equality, and then we have a rook against a knight, and we know a rook's more powerful, but we're going to see Pragg demonstrate that. He captures this c3 pawn first, making his own passed pawn before he stops the a pawn from moving forward, and he makes it look simple. He gives up that c pawn, he takes the g pawn, and right here Vidit resigns because there's just nothing to do. He's going to lose another pawn right here. It's going to be a 2-on-1 with these pawns. Pragg's going to be able to very slowly move his rook out of the way in safety, bring his king forward, slowly push those pawns forward, probably win another pawn, and all the tactics are going to work in his favor to be able to trade down to a winning pawn and king endgame. This one goes to Pragg. So when did this happen? We know he became a grandmaster at age 12. How old is he right now? This is 2019. Pragg is 14 years old right now, and he just beat a 2700. In what type of chess? This is classical chess. We're playing some theoretical chess in this game. You're going to see a lot of theoretical chess. Neither player is afraid of that. We get an anti-martial, and Vidit right here goes d4. He's not even fully developed yet. He doesn't have his bishop off the back row or this knight out of the way, and he goes d4 anyways. This is a really cool tactic right here of counterattacking this knight, forces this recapture, and this beautiful tactic right here with this bishop staring down the king, and Vidit is going for that bishop pair. He takes it right here. The king's a little bit misplaced, and now Vidit has all of his pieces along the back rank. I'm wondering if this bishop move is to reinforce this e4 pawn. He moves it again, so well, maybe we're going back here to reinforce his g2 pawn in the future. I mean, this bishop is going this way. And Vidit here just sacrifices his e4 pawn. It was protected 3 times, it's defended 3 times, and now Pragg takes the pawn. Vidit moves forward with tempo, attacking this queen. He moves forward with tempo, attacking the rook. He moves forward with tempo, attacking this fork right here, this weak d6 pawn. Pragg says, you know what, I need to get some counterplay here. He gets 2 pawns here. Right now he's threatening checkmate on g2. Vidit is his last pawn here on f3. He's got basically nothing in front of his king. He doesn't really care. He does have the bishop pair right here. And Pragg's knight right now is just not at all involved in the game. Is still stuck over here on a5. He really needs to start getting it back into the game here. We're moving it over. Vidit's threats are coming alive. He's lining up against the king. The knight is starting to come back in. Vidit takes a pawn. He is up a pawn at this point. He comes back. Right here, a queen trade offered by Vidit, and Pragg can't accept it. If he takes this queen trade, this a4 pawn is too much of a liability. It's going to be going all the way to make a queen. And right here, Pragg needed to get over to c2. He couldn't have retreated with his queen because of this counterattack. And now this really cool move by Vidit. His queen's getting attacked. He counterattacks the queen right here, getting 2 pieces for that rook, and Pragg is left with very limited options. If he takes the rook right here, then captures, and we trade down, and like I mentioned before, this a4 pawn, it's just too much. It goes all the way up the board. Instead of that, going back a couple moves, he could instead capture the rook with the knight, but in which case we get a check and we get that queen. We're pinning it right here. It's just too many tactics working out in White's favor. That knight here getting deflected away opens up this potential pin. And then lastly, the move that Pragg does end up lining up on is capturing with the bishop, but it's just not enough with those 2 pieces. Right here, the fastest win technically for Vidit, instead of this king f2 move, he could actually move his queen down here, and there's just nothing for black to do. He's got to move his queen out of the way because this is checkmate. This square is taken, this square is taken, this square is taken, and this square right here gives away the queen for free. And so instead of that, I mean, maybe he could play here, but we have a forced checkmate. This is super cool. This forces this exchange right here, and we're winning the queen, and in a couple short moves, we're going to get checkmate. So instead of that, Vidit, he doesn't go the tactical way. He plays king f2. He gets rid of all of Pragg's threats. He wants to shut that down, and there's just nothing for Pragg to do. The threats are too numerous, and checkmate is coming very, very soon. Blitz, rapid, or classical. This game was actually played in 2017. It's a classical game, and Pragg has just become a grandmaster. This is what 2700 versus 2500 looks like. I mean, I don't understand any of it, but that 2700 is just a little bit more edge. There's a little bit more pressure, and he prods and pokes, and Vidit gets the win. Clear favorite in 2017. Pragg has the white pieces. We open up with another Italian. Right here, this d3 move. Pragg could have played d4 right away. That's a known move in the position. He goes with a little bit of a slower approach, and we have Vidit immediately throwing his pawns forward. He loves to do that. He plays g5, and then we have Pragg. He's playing b4. They're both throwing their pawns forward. They're both trying to get their play, and who is going to have their attack land first? Look at this move by Vidit. So classy. King to f8 to get out of that pin. It's just, oh man, it's so cool. And Vidit here, he goes up a pawn, wins that e4 pawn. We move forward. Captures. Pragg recaptures that pawn. And we trade down. Pragg is up a pawn now. Turns around really quickly. Trades here. And interestingly enough, so this, it may look like the c4 pawn is available for capture. However, this would run into a tactic. You lose one of your bishops. And this c5 move is a weakening move. Why is it a weakening move? It gives up that d5 square. You don't need to ask Pragg twice what to do. He takes advantage of that right away. And just a couple moves later, it snowballs into a decisive attack. This sets up a checkmate threat. Do you see it? Neither does Vidit, but Pragg does, and this game is over. One simple mistake, Pragg takes a decisive advantage and capitalizes on it. What's the time format of this game? This is a rapid game. Why am I excited to see these two players in particular in the candidates? They're bold, they're fearless, and they play really, really fun games and make really, really fun chess to watch. I can't freaking wait. Who is going to win the candidates though? Is it Vidit or Pragg? Is it one of our American heroes? Is it Jan for the three-peat? Is it Abasov? Or is it somebody who has not yet qualified? Subscribe here. We're going to follow that action.